Hello.
Hi. We've reversed things. I like it.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
change
go
things
with
up.
it.
Let's change things up. Shall we get into it?
Mm.
Mm.
That'll be the Tism.
Welcome to episode 27 of That'll Be the Tism.
I'm Emma,
And I'm Claire.
and we are a podcast about our lives as late diagnosed neurodivergent people trying to adult.
Woo!
We are. Yeah, so there we go.
Indeed.
That was reasonably smooth. Well, it wasn't, was it? It wasn't smooth at all. We ended up reversing the hellos and everything went all wrong. But it's from here, plain sailing.
Mm.
You never know.
You never do.
Yeah, so we've got a few things to talk about this podcast.
Mm.
Lots of things. It's taken us 2 hours to get to this point, but here we are, recording now.
We should just start recording as soon as we start. Well, no, we shouldn't do.
We would have had 2 hours of no.
Not only that, but there would have been a lot of stuff to cut out.
They would.
Not least me singing a song that we don't know where it came from the past. It's a Mr. Blobby that's not about Mr. Blobby.
If anyone wants to see Google say there's nothing here, search for, in quotes, now he's floating out to sea.
Now
Lyric.
floating out to sea.
Because that is, it doesn't have any
to
searches.
you and me.
Yeah,
It's not
neither of
Mr. Blobby apparently, but
neither of those things. I mean, Mr. Blobby song. I mean, while we're talking about this, do you want to talk about the title of last episode?
yes, Mr.
Because
Lobby,
Mr. Lobby.
aka Mr. Blobby, aka Robbie Williams.
Oh, yeah, or Robbie Williams.
Yeah, because I told you, didn't I, before
Yeah.
we started the podcast, that Robbie Williams has made a post today because one of his front teeth has chipped, and he signed it off as Robbie Williams, which we believe is unequivocal proof that Robbie Williams listens to the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. We're not sponsored by Robbie Williams, but definitely if he wants to sponsor us, then he should let us know, because we would both go for that.
Definitely matches his brand, doesn't it?
I think so. And ours as well. But yeah, Mr. Lobby last time, Mr. Blobby. Descript was very confused with all of the Mr. Blobbies and all of the Psyducks.
Yeah, Mr. Ploy. Psyduck was watching us again. Side hook.
Side hook. But there was lots of hooks, because I think he must have batch corrected all the side hooks.
Yeah, I did. And all the Mr. Lobbies, but then there were a lot of Mr. Ploys and Mr. Bloys.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Welcome to the podcast.
Hyperfocus of the week.
How have you been, Claire?
Very, very anxious. I'm still in the phase, I think, aren't I, of my change of my job and my routine and my life and everything. But I've been extra anxious and just questioning all of my life choices this week, and then realised that was likely related to hormones. And went, oh yeah.
That's the other thing we were going to talk about.
Yeah, we were, but I mean, we can get more into it in another podcast in more depth. But I'd seen something this week that said that because of menstruation, that people born
People
uteruses,
with uteruses.
people who menstruate,
Yeah.
autism kind of be affected by the whole process. Because we've spoken before on the podcast about the effects of perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah.
When everything goes a bit wonky. And we sort of spoke about some of the sensory aspects of menstruation. And anyway, apparently it affects the nervous system in many ways. And there was a study in 2025 that said that people were more likely to have PMDD if they also had autism and struggle with mood, leading up to things like, even to very extremes, that around that time of the month the mood would be so low that it would be very, and that's not, and I wasn't in that frame of mind, but I was very low and very anxious, and more anxious than I have been, because I have been more anxious because I've been ruminating, because that's been my hyper focus. But I was questioning why I'd made the choices that I have and how long I can last with the workloads that I've got and whether I've made the
Financially,
right
to be
decision.
clear.
Yeah.
How long
Not
you can last
like
financially.
not like mentally. Even though I've already got all of those answers, when rumination kicks in, they sort of fall out of your head, don't they? The sense and the fact and the rationality of the situation.
Yes.
And that had gone, but to more of an extreme than usual, where I just felt really low and really tearful and was messaging you at 6 o'clock in the morning one night saying, what have I done with my life?
Yeah.
And I think as well, the week leading up to that had been a contributor, because from the Friday onwards, it wasn't a big day out, but it was a big day out for somebody that doesn't leave the house. I went to get my hair cut, and then I went to meet my friend that I used to work with for a drink, and then I went to town to try and sort out some banking stuff, and then couldn't do that. Walked up the road to just have a little look in a shop. I was feeling a bit brave, and this woman was busking, singing the song that we played at my dad's funeral, which is Fix You by Coldplay, which always tends to crop up around times where I'm thinking about him more, and it was his birthday that day as well. So from that point onwards, it was then my niece's birthday, and we were due to go back to town the next morning to get the banking stuff sorted, because we were executors for my nana, and my nana passed away over 10 years ago now, but it sort of brought all of that back, that it was the last thing that I was going to be doing for her. The dog had been up all night because she was itching, so we'd not really slept. Bernie knows exactly what times to pick to have issues. Their timing is like clockwork. We always say as soon as the vets ticks over to the out of hours, that's when something will happen. Or the last time when she was poorly was the morning that I had to do all those interviews for the person that's got my job now. It's like she knows that if you've got something on today, I'm going to cause trouble.
Shit will go down.
Shit will go down. Then in the evening, it was my niece's 18th birthday party, which was a really big social situation for me that I wasn't like particularly comfortable with, through no fault of anybody's, but it was the first time in a long time that I've been somewhere with competing sounds. Like, there was loud music upstairs, there was a lot of people upstairs, and then downstairs there was the karaoke, and then when the karaoke wasn't on, there was different music on, and it was just really overwhelming. I was with my mum, and my mum could see that I was overwhelmed.
Mum drop calling.
It just built up, and I felt like I couldn't leave because I didn't want to let my niece down, even though she wouldn't have seen it like that. But then left, and it all released itself in the Weatherspoons when I went for a drink with my mum afterwards. So had a little cry in the Weatherspoons. I had quite a big cry, actually. So that was the sort of context of last week, where I'd gone into it already anxious, and then the hormones had come in, and
everything was
I think it's definitely affecting me more as I get older, but the anxiety and everything, now knowing that potentially it is the effects that it can have on the nervous system because you're autistic, it sort of adds another layer to it, doesn't it? That you're not just going mad, that there's a reason for things being hard. So I feel a little bit better now than I did, but my brain's just had a lot of thinking to do.
PMDD is
yeah.
comorbid with both autism and ADHD.
Yeah, well, I haven't read it all, but the part of it that I'd seen, it was on Embrace Autism on Facebook that it had come up on.
Yes.
And it said that rates vary for the comorbidity of PMDD with
neurodivergence,
autism, but that it's quite high, which is good, not good. It's
good to be aware
lovely,
of,
considering that so many other things are higher. There's higher rates in people with autism. That's just lovely. It's like, have we not got enough to be contending with?
Yeah, we had that conversation a little bit earlier via message, didn't we? Because of our brains being wired differently, it's not only the autistic traits mentally that we have that are different, because our brains are wired differently, and therefore lots of our bodies often function differently because our brains are wired differently. And obviously your brain is what tells your body what to do. So when the wiring is different to how it is in a lot of people, Then there's a lot of comorbid digestive issues and ear, nose, and throat stuff, and general around like women's health with pregnancies and hypermobility and all lots of things because our brains are wired differently. It makes sense that the rest of the body will be also impacted. There's an increasing amount of scientific research around different conditions being more common with neurodivergent people.
And I think it's a weird thing, but it's quite validating, I think, to recognise so much of it and be able to go like, yeah, I've got all the like classic autistic traits, but equally, yeah, I do have digestive issues, I do have mobility issues, and there have been studies
Arthritis as well,
that
isn't
link the two,
Yeah.
link the type of arthritis that I've got to autism, not like conclusive ones, but
Yeah.
you sort of start to think, well, if it's affecting my nervous system and my nervous system is literally different, then
Yeah.
like, if I didn't
It
know
makes
they
sense.
were right when they diagnosed me with autism, I definitely do after a year of this podcast.
Yes.
So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
good times.
but that's the gist of it. No real hyperfocuses aside from if my hyperfocus is ruminating, which it definitely has been. So, how have you been? Because it's been your birthday,
It
hasn't
has been
it?
my birthday. It's been a quite weird time, really, to be honest. It's been quite a strange one. But my birthday has been happened.
Has been happened.
And so now I'm a full year older than I was 2 weeks ago, because that's how time works. Yeah, it's been strange because last year was my 40th and I made such a big deal about it. And then this year I've just not, because I've historically always organised my own stuff for my birthday. I haven't had the headspace to organise anything. And so I spent most of my birthday feeling sorry for myself, basically. I mean, aside from my son waking me up at 6:10 by throwing a present at my face, which was very lovely, but also it was 6:10 in the morning and it was a Psyduck hat, which is epic. But it was 6:10 in the morning. And it's really hard when you've got a 7-year-old saying, Mummy, happy birthday, I love you, in your face. 6:10 in the morning and it's my birthday. Can we just, put a pin in this? But it was a really nice start to the day and he was really excited about my birthday. And we went to the pub quiz that we go to. A couple of friends came out with us this time. We hadn't been for a while, but we won the pub quiz. So that was nice. And then on Thursday, we had a really nice meal. My fiance cooked me my favourite meal and we played an exit game, which is one of my favourite ways to pass time. If anyone doesn't know what exit games are, they're like escape rooms in boxes and you basically have to wreck the contents of the box to solve all the different riddles. There's probably around 15 to 20. I don't know how many exactly different puzzles to solve. And that's the thing that I really like doing. And I got flowers, which are behind me. And we had a kind of a kids party on Saturday. My friends and friend of the show got me this amazing coaster, which says, "Keep talking, I'm diagnosing you" on it, which obviously one of my things to say when I'm talking to people is I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified to diagnose people, but I know quite a lot about this stuff and I'm able to advise people on whether they could potentially go for assessment if they feel it's right for them and so on. So I really liked that. That's a nice thing. I've had lots of nice things this week, really. And then we had a reasonably full-on weekend. But I found extracurricular activity that my son is happy to go to. That's a positive thing that's happened
Oh, yes.
because he's very resistant to doing extracurricular activities. But there is a community youth theatre group like 15 minutes drive from my house on a Saturday morning, and my son went there for a taste out on Saturday morning and loved it. So that is the best thing for me. They were advertising saying they were really great for kids that have amazing imaginations and want to work on their self-confidence and things. And so I was like, if he can get into something that is outside of school, then that's best for him because he really doesn't like school. And I don't like the fact that a lot of his social stuff revolves around either school or one other friend he has from preschool or like mine and my fiance's social lives and our friends. And it's great that they have friends with or with kids his age, but for him to have his own friendship circles is really important. And he's had a lot of issues with school recently. The past few weeks, we've had arguments with other kids. There's a friend of his who, when they get together, they spiral and they're very alike, so they just bounce off each other and become quite full on. And he had his quarterly SEN report, and the school are basically saying that they're really great at supporting him at school, but he spends a reasonable amount of time when anything focused is happening. He sits in his own space in the corner with his fidgets and his book, and he does things his way, which is brilliant. The school are starting to worry that it might be impacting his self-esteem. So to find the youth theatre, which is something that he hopefully will be able to get into that will help him grow his confidence, has been really good, and he loved it. He's been talking about it since then, and so he's going back on Saturday. Yeah, it's
very good.
It's all fine. It's all good. And now it's not my birthday anymore. And so that's done for another year. Most of my hyper focuses for the rest of the year will be wedding related. So you are all welcome in advance for that.
Yes.
So, are we going to have a rave?
Yes.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Thanks.
It's still exciting, isn't it, really? Thanks, Chris.
It's Chris Demetriou, Major.
Yeah. I feel like we should probably add a not sponsored by in now the amount of times that we've mentioned Chris.
Yes.
Sure that we're not sponsored by Chris. Although he has done some amazing things for us, sweeper-wise, and stings, and intros and outros.
Including this one. The main section.
There we go. So, the main section.
The section of mains.
Not desserts.
No. We have spoken about RSD on a number of occasions, I think, but not as a main focus of a section.
And we have lots of different kinds of RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria, that have cropped up in both of our lives over the past short while, really. So we decided that we had enough to make a main section of it.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about rejection sensitivity and how brilliant it is, how much it makes our lives so much better.
Yeah.
So there's a few different ways. Which order do we do it in?
Don't know. Maybe I'm feeling like work.
Work first?
I mean, generally in work, I will tend to find if I put forward an idea or something and it doesn't go ahead, you get a bit...
Yeah.
It can be painful because you think in your brain that you know best and that you should have the answers for things, and then when things go in a different direction, you're a bit like, oh my God, that must be something that I've done. They must think that I'm terrible. And then you spiral and feel like you're a failure. But I've found, especially since I've become self-employed, that because I've got a small number of clients and I'm going for other work, and when you don't hear back from people, that can be a big RSD thing. Like, what could I have done differently? Have they not got back in touch with me because they changed their mind because they think I'm rubbish? Can I even do this? That sort of spiral. And that's a lot harder, I think, because you have got people to talk about it with because you've got your friends and family, but it's just you in that situation, isn't it? So I found that definitely really difficult from a work perspective to be in the field of work that I'm doing, where there's a lot of different people, all with very, very similar skill sets, all competing for the same work. And quite often it's the look of the draw, or just somebody's got experience that more exactly matches the skill set that the person's looking for. It's not about you, but it's very difficult to see that when quite often you won't even get a thanks, but no thanks. You will not hear anything at all.
Yeah. I mean, we're in both in fields, really, that there's a lot of people doing what I do as well. And I've obviously had a lot more years of being not got back to. And the initial sort of transition into knowing that in the end, probably just as many people that say no will say yes as well. It's just you've kind of got to wait for that to build when you first start, and knowing that there are a lot of people out there doing the same thing is hard, but also at the same time, it can be really great when you build up a network of those people. And there's slightly different clients for slightly different people. I have different coaches that I refer to for different things, and even different ADHD coaches and autism coaches. I'm not able to work with everybody. And I know you've mentioned before the chemistry between people has to be right. You have to feel right working with somebody.
Yeah.
For
And
it
I
to
think,
be the most comfortable.
and because obviously it's your business, it's easy to go down routes with, well, I'll just work with that person because they've said yes, when that doesn't align with the person that you want to work with.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of almost just you get a bit reverse RSD with it, that you think if you say no, it's not right, that you're going to upset them, and
In the
that
most
makes you upset as well. But I just keep telling myself that that's why I've gone down the route of self-employment, is so that I can build work that I want, people that I want to work with.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why there's a lot of kind of ghosting almost in business is because people don't like saying no. And so they just don't get back in touch rather than messaging and saying no. I mean, the amount of people I followed up with after a chemistry call a few days later just to say, I'm just following up on our call. Let me know if you need any more information, which is a hard thing to do because you're facing rejection. You're basically asking for it, especially if you know they were having other calls that day with other people, but then it kind of enables a bit of closure. So it's better to say no to somebody than to just ignore them forever, because being ghosted, it just leaves so many open loops, doesn't it, at the end of the day? If you're waiting for somebody to come back to you, and I mean, I'm terrible at replying to emails, and this is kind of hypocritical almost, in that I am awful at replying to emails because of ADHD. And I know that there's a few things that we've discussed over the past however many weeks where I've pointed out that a lot of the people that you are going to be working with will be very bad at replying to email, which is really important. And a lot of the people that I want to work with are very bad at replying to emails. And it's something that you get used to happening over time.
But it's hard not to let it knock your confidence. It's hard not to lead with the RSD of it and immediately go to, they've rejected me because of something that I've done.
Yeah.
Even though you've no evidence to know that that's the case. And it's one of the things that I've noticed that's different about between self-employment and being employed is that generally, I think I said to you once, if I'd gone for a job and I'd not got it, I'd expect a rejection email or a thanks but not this time, or a bit of feedback, and I'm not getting that. And you were like, well, you don't get it with self-employment, and it's a shame. And I think if I'm ever in the position where the shoe's on the other foot, I will make sure that that person gets that feedback, because otherwise how do you know what to do differently next time?
Yeah, I mean, it is
But
hard.
I can see
Yeah.
why it doesn't happen when you know that so many people are going for the same bits of work and everybody's so busy. And if there is neurodivergence in there, which is the case for the type of client bases that we're both aiming for, then there are going to be people that forget to respond to emails, or because if they didn't forget to respond to emails, they wouldn't need me.
Yeah, and I mean, especially in your case, because I mean, I get replies from people's VAs often, but especially in your case where you're the person that will help them sort out all of their emails and reply.
But in your case, if they haven't had the strategist coaching yet, if it's a work-based issue that they're coming to you with, they might not know that they need X, Y, and Z to be able to improve for the business. They might think that all of that is on them to do, and be coming to you going, Emma, oh, I'm beating myself up because I can't respond to emails.
Yeah.
We
I
don't,
mean, this is the thing, isn't it? I don't get RSD at all now when potential clients don't come back to me, or at least if I do, it's like a passing disappointment rather than like a crippling stab in the face, which is how I used to describe RSD. But it is something that you kind of have to harden to. And it's always the case of, especially when it's business, it's never personal. You have to separate business needs from anything else. And that can make it a lot easier to not be as personally impacted, because it isn't about you, it's about their business need, and their business need isn't always going to align. And it's the same with any kind of RSD that involves other people. The question is, if it's not about me, what is it about? Because it's likely to not be about me. And 99% of the time, the answer is, well, it's not about you. Not everything's about you. And it's hard to say not everything's about you. Sounds like that person is being self-absorbed.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole, I know everything's not about me, but in rejection, to feel rejected, it has to be about us, because otherwise there wouldn't be any rejection sensitivity. So if you are feeling RSD, then it is something that you're putting the responsibility on yourself, and you could have done something differently and all of that stuff. When in reality, if it's not about us, if it's about the other person, then we don't have any responsibility. We couldn't have done anything differently. And the amount of people I've spoken to later down the line that have said, you were my second choice, or I had to do this because, or I didn't even end up hiring a coach in the end, or something's happened in my life that meant I couldn't do XYZ. And people have come back to me like 6 months later, 12 months later, a year and a half later even, and said, right, I'm in the right place now. And it's really hard when you're starting out because you don't have those experiences. And with autism, we work from proof. We work from how many times has this happened? So you know that because it's happened before, it's likely to happen again. And until it's happened for the first time, then you don't have that proof. And so all you have to go off is, I mean, the whole bank of facts thing that I think I've mentioned on the podcast before is like making a log of all of the positives and all of the testimonials. And every time someone's liked your work, and every time someone's given you a compliment or shared your posts on social media and all of that stuff. Because again, in business, people don't do that unless they mean it, because if somebody says something positive about you in a public place, they are putting their own reputation on the in line with yours, and you wouldn't do that in business if you didn't really believe in the person. And so there's all of the stuff like that that can help. But until you have the proof that it's going to work, because it has worked and this has happened in the past, then it's hard to imagine it working, because of autism is, you're very like, when you're in a situation, then you're in it.
And I think it's the context as well, thinking about that as you were just saying it, because I know from situations where I've gone for jobs before, a couple of times, like my job before the NHS one, I wasn't the first choice. I didn't get the job. I was like half a point out or something. And then they rang me back a week later and said, it's still available if you're still available. And I think I've had that happen a few times in work and in life, to know that, like we've said before, and it's a strange saying, but everything happens for a reason. Like, if it's meant to be, it will be. But like applying that to this is not something that I've even thought about, because it's those making those connections and seeing the bigger picture, and that's something that I find difficult to do. That's
Even
another
like,
thing, isn't it?
even as recently as a documentary that I did,
Mm-hmm.
because you know that I didn't get it, and then I spent 2 weeks having closed the loop and thought it was all done and sorted, and then getting an email 2 weeks later, actually that hasn't happened, and can you do it? And so it's, and that is a whole other bleeding thing to reopen the loop and start again. But it does happen, and people are doing the things in the background that we can't see. And I know all the traits link together, but it's the whole needing to know everything as well. If you've replied to somebody and they haven't replied back, we kind of create this narrative, and the narrative has to be the things that are going on in their lives that stop them replying, not the things that we could have done to mean they don't want to reply. And it's choosing which narrative you go with. And if you feel yourself, oh, it's because I did this and because I did that, or because I did the other, and maybe trying to change that to, or it might be because they're doing this, or it might be because they're doing that. And it's practice. You've got to practice, because it's not something that it's going to happen automatically overnight, and it's not going to happen every time, you know. But when it's other people, especially other people that we don't know, which it often is in business, their lives are basically a mystery. It's like people watching. If you watch someone walking down the street and create a little narrative about what their life could be like, or you see someone having a conversation, and, you know, that's quite common with neurodivergent people because of the need to know everything, which I know we spoke about in the last episode. If you invent a narrative that provides an explanation for the situation, it's just trying to make that narrative not about you being crap and more about what is happening in that other situation.
I think, again, that comes down to you going on the data that you have because you want an answer, and the data that you have is yours because you're inside your own brain. You don't have their data, and that's why you automatically go to, it must be something that I've done because that's the only thing that theoretically you've got some data for.
Yes. But you have a lot of data to prove that people like what you do as well.
I know.
Yeah.
And you know, but it's not always that
No.
easy, is it?
No.
It's just about reminding yourself, I guess.
Yeah. And I think if we go on to my work kind of RSD, which is happening at the moment, which is the book, not finishing things, because one of the big reasons anyone doesn't finish things because of a fear of failure, and a fear of failure is a form of rejection sensitivity. And I mean, there's many reasons why ADHDers don't finish things, but one of them is rejection sensitivity, and it's the same for autistic people or similar. And writing this book is one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing that I've ever done in my career. It's so hard. Like, yes, it's a great idea. Fantastic. Well done, me. Brilliant. You're writing a book. You've got all these people involved. You've spoken about it hundreds of times now. Everyone knows. And so every time you speak to someone, how's the book going? Well, I haven't written anything on it in 3 weeks. Until the beginning of last week, I was stuck at the last 10,000 words. And it's like wading through treacle. It's awful. I mean, there's a lot of ADHD reasons, and executive function, and finishing things there's a whole identity crisis around who am I as an author. I mean, I'm a co-author for several books, but not my own book with my picture of only me and no one else on the back cover. That's a huge thing. I reread one of my half-written chapters last Friday, and I just decided that the book's rubbish and everyone's going to hate it and it's self-obsessed and all of those other things, and had a bit of a mental break. But it's something that's been brewing, and I needed to get it out of my system because it was just brewing and bubbling away. And it's really hard as a coach to show the insecurities, and I try to be as authentic as I possibly can be on my social media, but to turn around and say, I feel like this book is absolutely rubbish. And that's how I was feeling in that moment. And it's okay to feel how you feel. You know, we can't control our emotions, but what we can control is how we react to our emotion. And I had a bit of a blowout in the kitchen. You know, the book's rubbish. I've wasted all this time and effort and money, and no one's going to buy it, and everyone's going to hate it. And then my fiance that was stood there turned around and told me I was being dramatic, which was the worst thing he could have said in the moment. And it's really hard when you have to get it out of your system to be able to move on from it. And I have a lot of positive feedback about a lot of the things that I've shared with people that are in the book. I've got people on my waiting list that want to read it. I've got people on my waiting list that want to read it that I don't know. So I know that it's not just people being nice. And I know that it's a valuable resource. And I know that the tools that I used helped me. And I know that things I've shared with other people have helped them. And I have a lot of evidence. But because it was just a little thought that was bubbling away, a little strand of RSD that was stopping me from moving forward, I had to get it out of my system. And once I'd done that and I'd had that conversation with my fiance about how never to call me dramatic ever, because as an ADHDer, it's something I was called often, dramatic and attention seeking when I was growing up. Anyone who is neurodivergent gets emotionally dysregulated and has meltdowns, and all of that stuff can seem dramatic when actually it's dysregulation and needing to overshare, like the Bernie face thing when you're talking and needing to say the thing, otherwise it just feels like your face is about to set on fire unless you say it. Yeah. So RSD in work with other people and RSD in work with your own brain. Yay. So they're two of the big things. I mean, I'm all right now after I've had that thing on Friday and got that out of my system. I've written quite a lot more. It's still really hard. I'm still doing everything I can to avoid doing it. But I am messaging a lot of people now saying, just so you know, I'm about to start writing and hopefully I will progress in this book in the next however long I'm working on it. And thank you for your support. And it is working. I am slowly but surely chipping away. I've got probably about 5,000 words to write now. So I've written nearly 3 chapters since the beginning of last week. I've got 4 left to do. And I've completely removed the deadline because once it was going to go past the deadline, which was initially my birthday, and then it was the 2-year anniversary of us moving into the house, which is this coming weekend, basically it was sack it. It'll get done when it gets done. And that is helping a little bit as well. But I'm hoping to be uploading it to KDP in a couple of weeks when I've got my next session with my book coach. But that's, yeah, so RSD internal as well as external. And then we've got social, which we'll briefly touch on as well.
Yes.
Lots of different kinds of social RSD, but social RSD is largely, again, other people.
Yeah. So this one was something we thought about when we were picking the main section because of being in social situations. Obviously, you've got your social anxiety and the drain of knowing that what you said is the right thing, knowing that what you're doing is the right thing. But equally, if you're in a situation where you already feel uncomfortable, and then, for example, somebody doesn't come to talk to you, or
something happens that you're not expecting, or it doesn't go how it went in your head, or the conversation doesn't go how it went in your head. And because usually by the time we've got into those social situations, we've imagined pretty much every scenario that could possibly happen in that situation. If the thing that happens isn't one of the many situations that we've considered, or if it's one of the negative ones we've considered that we've already created a whole narrative around anyway, then it can be really painful. And it's another case of, if it wasn't me, then what could it be? And logic is great, but logic isn't often there when you're in that initial reaction and feeling rejected initially. You have to let yourself be upset because rejection sensitive dysphoria isn't something that you can cure. And one of the most infuriating things about it is that no matter how much logic you apply to it, you can't cure it. You have to accept it for what it is. You have to know that, okay, this is thing. I feel like I'm being rejected. It's going to be painful. And then just give yourself a little bit of time. And then what can I do to move out of it? Is there anything I can explain to myself? Is there any logic I can apply to this situation? Can I do something that's going to make me feel really happy? And is there anything I can take from this situation or do in this moment that is going to help lift me out of it and move forward?
Yeah.
Because I think one of the biggest things that happens when you're in a social situation, especially, is when you can't get out of that situation straight away, or you don't have the freedom, being whether that's because you have to mask or because you have to stay somewhere or because whatever's happening, you can't just get up and walk away from the table. And one of the biggest issues there is it becomes something that's out of your control as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, right, when I get out of this situation, I'm going to be able to X, Y, Z. And that will help. Or if there's anything, if you can order a nice drink that will make you feel better. I know we went out for my birthday on Tuesday night, and someone that was there said something that I was just a little bit floored by. And I just ordered an extra hot chocolate because I know that that will help. And yes, it's maybe not the healthiest coping mechanism to have a hot chocolate instead of taking a breath of fresh air and having a walk around the block or whatever. But you've got to do what you've got to do in that moment. I knew that that would help me feel comforted. So finding that comfort, knowing it's okay, and not getting frustrated with yourself for feeling rejected, because that's another thing. If you're in a situation and you can apply logic and your brain's going, but logically this, logically that, logically the other, you're allowed to feel hurt. And so getting frustrated with yourself and trying to apply logic before your brain's in that position where it's able to listen to the logic is another thing that can cause problems, because then you've got the beating yourself up for feeling hurt, which is, if you feel hurt, you feel hurt. You can't do anything about it. So it's having the awareness to say, right, okay, let's do what we can in this moment to help myself feel better and get out of the situation as soon as it's okay to do so, and remembering the logic when you're able to. And yeah, it's very rarely about us. And, it is 99% of the time people are acting in their own best interests. And that's not a selfish thing. I mean, we are often raised to feel like acting in your own best interests is selfish, but no one else is going to do that. I mean, I obviously act in my son's best interests, and when I'm making decisions for me and my fiance and my son and us as a family, obviously you take into account other people's needs and other people's desires and other people's best interests as well, but you have to factor in your own best interests when you're doing anything in life, because that your survival depends on it, and happiness and all of that stuff. I had a conversation with a friend last year and they got very cross at the thought that they were the most important person in their own lives. But if we're not the most important person in our own lives, then what are we expected? You have to be the most important person in your own life. One of the first coaches I worked with said to me, be the leading lady in your own life, as if it was a film. You have to be, because no one else is going to do that for you. And so in this situation, all the people are doing that for themselves. Anyway, I can talk about RSD until the cows come home. It's one of my specialist subjects. If anyone has any questions about RSD, please do not hesitate to get in touch and I will talk about it further. Anyway, so trait of the week.
Trait of the week.
Yes. Which is memory, or being good at remembering things.
Weird memory shit.
Or being bad at remembering certain things.
Yeah. This stemmed from me playing My Grandma Went Shopping and She Bought in the car with my son yesterday when we were driving home. And it's a game that I am exceptionally good at. I have a very good short-term recollection for random shopping basket items. If anyone doesn't know what My Grandma Went Shopping and She Bought is, it's a game you can play in the car. You don't need anything. And essentially, one person says, my grandma went shopping and she bought cheese, for example, which obviously was the first thing that I said because it's cheese. And then the next person said, my grandma went shopping and she bought cheese and an apple. And then the next person so on and so on. And you have to remember all of the things. I always like playing it because I'm good at it and I like playing things that I'm good at. But it just kind of sparked a conversation between me and my fiance about different things. And he's really bad with dates, but he can still remember stock codes from when he used to work in a warehouse when he was like in his early 20s. And I can still remember a lot of client codes from when I used to work in accountants that I left 9 years ago and stopped doing work for most of those clients in 2007 when I moved from tax to bookkeeping. So that's nearly 20 years and I can still remember certain people's client codes. I used to be the reference. People would say to me, Emma, do you just know the client code for X person? And I would just tell them and save them searching on the system, which took a while.
I definitely had that before.
But it's weird. Our memories are strange. Autistic memories are very strange. And I think that stereotypically, there's a lot of, you have to remember all of a certain thing. It's like to
It's
prove,
especially interesting,
yeah,
isn't it? Like,
yeah,
or people think it's related to special interest, where in actual fact it's more about data, isn't it?
yeah, the kind of data it is.
Having the data in case you ever need to know what grandma had on a shopping list in 20 years' time. Or in my case, I was saying when you suggested memory as a trait, that up until quite recently, I could still remember the direct debit guarantee scheme script from when I used to work at BT when I was 18, which will be 20 years ago since I last needed that in August.
Yeah, it's weird.
Why? But then certain other things you can't remember, or in my case, I think sometimes it's not that I can't remember, it's just that I'm so overwhelmed by that thing
Yeah.
that my brain just goes, no, we'll just not think about that, and then you can't get overwhelmed by it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, that might be what it
Which
is.
and then potentially like the whole object permanence thing sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Like it's out of sight, it's out of mind, and then it literally just goes into another filing cabinet in your brain, and then something will randomly spark it 5 years later, and you'll go, "I never did that. Why didn't I remember to do that?"
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons to start with when I first started learning about my own autism was I can't be autistic because I'm really interested in all of these things, but I don't know everything about them and I can't remember everything about them and I can't randomly recall facts.
Mm.
So, like, I remember numbers and dates and things like that, sometimes ingredients of things, and just random places that specific, like this morning,
Mm.
we were talking about potentially going away for a weekend in June to Leyburn. And I was like, oh, if we go in there, then that's near Wensleydale. And there's a fish and chip shop in Wensleydale that does deep fried Wensleydale. And I've wanted to go for a very long time. My fiance's like, yes, I know. I knew you were going to say that as soon as I said where it was. And it's the first thing that pops up. And it's remembering specific places that do things
Mm-hmm.
relating to my special interest, which cheese, one of those.
Cheese.
We should have talked about the cheesemonger qualification. If anyone's interested, there's a cheesemonger qualification. We'll talk about it another time.
Yeah, Cheesemonger Olympics. We
Yes,
should have spoken about that in the
we should
hyper
have.
focuses. It was definitely the hyper focus of the evening that we
Yeah,
both decided that we were going to become
cheesemongers.
cheesemongers.
Because there's qualifications. What was the name of the thing? You could become a cheese expert. It was like a level one in
We
cheese.
already are cheese experts.
But yeah, that was
Cheese professional
there we go, cheese professional qualifications, which sure, why not? Why not do that?
from the Academy of Cheese.
The Academy of Cheese, that was it. That was what I got excited about.
Yeah.
I think I saw it and then sent the message back to you in capitals. The Academy of Cheese, that's a thing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. But yeah, remembering things relating to special interests, I always thought, oh, well, I like penguins, but I can't list like a load of random facts about penguins. That means I can't be autistic. No. No, it doesn't though, because I know
No.
lots of client codes from a company I've not worked at for a long time. It's the different kinds of data, and some autistic people have photographic memories, which is terrifying. Yeah, it's
I've
interesting.
definitely got a good memory for processes as well. We spoke last week, didn't we, about not knowing things and me saying in terms of my new work, it's a not yet. And one of my things is if I don't know how to do it, I want to know how to do it, and then I will probably eventually become a go-to person for other people. That's what I tended to find. People that had taught me how to do stuff in my last job would come to me and go, how do I do this again?
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
could probably walk you through processes from jobs throughout my career. I could probably tell you names of people, and I worked for a group of doctors' surgeries in my last role, and they each had a 4-digit code, and I can tell you what
yeah,
they were. And I probably don't need that information ever again in my life. But if you ask me in 10 years' time, I'll probably know what they are.
yep,
Because it's
absolutely.
just, I suppose it's a similar thing, I think, maybe to how my husband has things that he keeps just in case we need them one day, like a cable or
Yeah.
a battery or like a pen or something. You'll say something and he'll go, oh, I've got something that could help you with that. It's sort of a way of fitting in, isn't it, to have that information
I was just going to
and the
say,
usefulness of it.
yeah,
But equally, it's the collating of the data as well, isn't
yeah.
it?
I was just going to say, when I had a conversation a month or so ago with someone who used to be my old manager at the accountants I used to work at in Manchester, and during the conversation, she mentioned someone else that was in the office, and I was like, oh, you know, when I think of him, I always remember this time that he pulled my chair out from under me and I fell over on my bum not long after I started, and they had both forgotten that. And so I've remembered that. My brain's thought, oh, I'm going to log this because it's a funny thing that everyone will remember and we'll be able to reference it in years in the future and laugh. And you think that that's going to make you fit in. And then you say it and everyone else has forgotten. And it's like,
like,
yeah, it's a bit awkward, that, isn't it? If nobody else can remember. But I have logged it. And so now they will think that that was an important moment in my life. And then you start overthinking everything because you've got that random memory of an experience that you thought that it was normal to remember those things, and not everyone does. So yeah, memory is an interesting one with autism. It's a strange being.
very good.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the random factoid. And now for this week's random factoid.
Of the week, which is a very small one.
It came up randomly because we were like, oh, we don't have a factoid. And then I got a message from a friend talking about how alpacas can burp and they'd never thought about alpacas burping. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why don't we just look into that for a minute? And so we looked up some animals that can't burp. And then I talked a little bit about my dad who couldn't burp.
Also couldn't burp.
Because some humans, not very many, there's a very small percentage of humans that physically can't burp. It's to do with the flaps in the esophagus that don't have the mechanism that's available to go the other way, and it causes a lot of discomfort. And there is actually treatment for it now. So if you know anyone that can't burp, there is an experimental treatment where they put Botox into the muscle and it allows it to move. And once you've done it once, you can keep doing it because the body just learns automatically. And yeah, apparently it's very, very uncomfortable.
Well, afterwards, your flaps look really, really young.
Yeah, afterwards, your flaps. You've got young flaps.
Young flaps. Title of the podcast.
There we go. Young flaps.
So, which animals did you learn about?
I was surprised that horses can't burp. I only got as far as horses or vomit either. The horses can't vomit or burp because of the sphincter in the esophagus. Sphincter is such a word, isn't it? It's such a word. Because of the sphincter in the it sits at an acute angle where the esophagus enters the stomach. So it's to do with the angle of a horse's neck and the muscles in the neck that the angle makes the reverse flow of gas and liquid impossible. So that isn't very nice for horses. So that's an interesting one.
Neither can rabbits.
Rabbits? Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. If they develop gas, they cannot expel it. It's not funny, but it can cause dangerous bloating. And my brain just thought of rabbit balloons.
Yeah, I know. I got it. I see. The thing is, right, when I'm mentioning people having that situation and horses, my brain didn't turn them into a balloon. I think it's something to do with the size of a rabbit.
Well, in that case, then, so squirrels, rats, and guinea pigs.
This seems like a rodent situation.
That's because their diaphragms are weak. Yeah, rodents. Diaphragms are weak and they lack the muscular structure to force gas back up the esophagus.
Well, they can all collapse, can't they? They can all collapse the rib cages. I wonder if it's something that's linked because, like, mice can collapse their rib cages so they can fit into tiny spaces. So I wonder if that's linked somehow.
And then just inflate themselves again, like a can of pop to inflate themselves.
They can kind of collapse I hope that's right anyway. It might not be as straightforward as they collapse the rib cages, but they can do something with their bodies to make themselves really, really tiny so they can fit into really tiny spaces. I wonder
It
if that
doesn't.
impacts the muscular part that enables them to burp as well.
Oh, can mice burp? Can mice burp? No, they can't.
No, they can't. It's a rumour, bugger.
They lack the physical and neurological ability. And also because they've got missing brain circuits.
Nice.
But the one that I wanted to tell you about is sloths.
What? Talking about sloths again?
Do not burp or fart. Instead, they absorb excess fermentation gases into their bloodstream and expel them through their breath.
Right.
So there you go.
Well, there you go.
Not only can sloths not burp, but they also cannot fart. And on that note,
I need to just go back to mice. I need to go back to mice because I haven't said something that is wrong. So that's important to clarify. When I said that mice
collapse themselves.
themselves, they can. Their skeletal system is lightweight and flexible, so they don't have a rigid collarbone, which allows the shoulders to collapse inwards, and they have a flexible spine, which allows them to twist, and the rib cage, it compresses, so mice can fit through gaps of 6 to 7 millimeters or 6 to 8 millimeters wide because of the way that their bones. So I googled it and it was like, this is a rumor. I'm like, oh no, I've said something on the podcast that's not true, but it is true. So
but mice can fart because I've just
that just negates everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, but what I'm thinking now is they can't burp, so they get filled with gas and then they collapse themselves and have a little trump.
Yeah,
that's probably what it is. David Attenborough.
Yeah,
we're not sponsored by David Attenborough.
David after 100 very soon, because I saw a thing last week that said that soon he's going to be too old for Lego because Lego's for ages 0 to 99.
Well, they're going to have to change that, aren't they?
I didn't look at his date of birth, 8th of May 1926, so it's David Attenborough's birthday before the podcast is released. By the time the podcast is released, he will be 100 and therefore no longer able to play Lego.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Happy birthday.
And he'll almost certainly be listening to this, or being the world's most premier animal expert, and we say a lot of things about animals. He's probably sat there shaking his head saying none of that's true.
Maybe.
I've heard a sloth fart before.
Maybe he has. He might have.
But do you know what?
If you're listening, Dave,
I would say I can still play with Lego and you can't. So
and on that note,
we'll
finish the podcast.
I think so, yeah.
Thank you all for listening. We do so appreciate your support. If you have any questions or you want us to discuss anything specific, please email us at that'llbethetism@gmail.com. And please rate us and like us and give us all the stars on all of the podcast platforms. All of the podcast platforms. And platforms. Anyway, so all of our information is at linktr.ee/that will be the Tism. It's that'll be the Tism. So good luck finding that. And we'll speak to you in a fortnight.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
That'll be the Tism.